Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We are back again. Look a little bit different. As you know, for the past few weeks, through a partnership with the Massachusetts General Hospital, we've deviated every other week away from Testimony Tuesdays. But I wanted to have a special Testimony Tuesday today because of our location on Saturday at the Underground Cafe and Lounge. I have known this sister for so many years, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But please don't forget, we are supporting a Black-owned business. Saturday is Small Business Saturday, and along with just being able to see your wonderful faces in person for a lot of you for the first time, we are supporting this wonderful woman, wonderful soul at the Underground Cafe and Lounge, supporting Black-owned, Small Business Saturday, but this is a Black-owned business. And so without further ado, I would like to present to some and introduce to others this wonderful queen who is in the room. And I got a whole bunch going on today, so we're just going to go, there we go, and update that. But Nia, good. Now, is that a backdrop, or are you actually at Daryl's?
Oh, I'm actually at Daryl's.
So that talks to the fact that you work so hard. And so, one, thank you for being in the Java Cafe. This has been a long time coming, trying to get you in the room to talk about your testimony. It's Testimony Tuesday. You and I know each other from a faith-based space, and so I know you know the regimen. Praise the Lord, everybody. Praise the Lord, everybody. Thank God for being here for life, health, and strength. But no, say good morning to everyone. For those of you who may not know who you are, please introduce yourself, and we'll jump in and talk about your testimony.
Good morning. I am Nia Grace, first and foremost. I'm from Roxbury, born and raised. I'm also the owner of Daryl's Corner Bar and Kitchen, as well as the Underground Cafe and Lounge, and the co-founder of the Boston Blacks Hospitality Coalition.
I saw something on Twitter about them. That's good to know, because I was like, I need to reach out. See, look at Jesus. And so, Nia, how far I can go, I think, from my memory, I want to say either, not Youthful Praise, Here to Praise, not Bay State Youth. How far do we go back?
Here to Praise, right? Little Zion, right? You want to? That's awesome.
Yes, I was a little bit thicker and in ministry and stuff. And so shout out to Pastor Dunwoody and the Joneses over there. But Nia, tell us a little bit about yourself and your testimony. I found out within the past year that you're not new to Daryl's. And so tell us your story and your testimony.
I think what's cool about my walk is that, like most of our walks, we kind of find out about ourselves as we're going along that journey. And some things, I like to say that my position right now is, passion meeting my purpose. That's kind of where I sit right now. In terms of not being new to Daryl's, I used to manage this business, and I think that is some things that people kind of miss in the nuance of me being the owner right now. But I came here in 2015 with my consulting company, and it was Grace Jones is the name of my consulting company, and I focused on business management and social media management, and really trying to refine and help small businesses. I was taking my corporate experience from the previous 12 years and was really trying to help scale up smaller businesses. And one of those businesses included Daryl's Corner Bar and Kitchen. So I came here initially for marketing help. I was on a contract, a couple of hours a week. They understood my background in hospitality, and then had a role for management and actually becoming full-time as a manager as well. So through that positioning, I was just sitting here in the space and doing the job and doing the work. But I think one of the most interesting things is it's probably 10 years ago now. 10 years ago, I came into Daryl's and I came with my girlfriend and was saying that, oh man, this place is awesome. Like this place right here is, super something like cool for me and something that I can resonate with. Is my audio back?
It's a little I can hear you, but I want to make sure the audience does, because it is so important to be able to hear you. And I think something just shifted there a little bit, but are you on headphones?
I have my headphones. Can you hear me?
Yeah, try if and we do this all the time in real time in the Java Cafe. See if you take them out, if we can hear you better. Sometimes, the wonderful connection and stuff. Let's see. Go ahead.
Hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Real good. Okay, cool. Oh yes, absolutely. And so, but I've been telling people that you started out there as a waitress. So thank you for I've been giving, look, see, that's why you got to come and give your own testimony. And so you started there in management in 15 around social media. I know more than most that landing in a place of passion, though not a desired, sought after passion. And so I understand that point about being in your passion place. And just how did you get to the point of doing that with the consulting firm and then buying it? Like, that's major.
Yeah, I say that, for me, it was an opportunity to kind of grow and really test myself. So let's not get it twisted. I definitely was a waitress. I actually started off my waitressing journey at the Spirit of Boston, doing moonlight cruises and morning cruises, whatever. Right. So that's where I got my waitressing in like restaurant chops a bit. But the progression, I would say it was one of those things where people talk about getting forced out of their comfort zone in order to take that leap, right? So for me, it was definitely, I got pushed out, truthfully. When I was working here, I got pushed out of the establishment. And this is probably like the first time I've shared that truth, is that, I was no longer actually welcomed here per se. And I think that is like, that's what gives me so much joy today. And I know you're confused, but
see, I had to lean in, Jesus. Wait a minute, you mean there's no more, but you walk back in. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Tell your own story.
You got to tell the story, right? So like I said, I was no longer welcome here at some point, and that's all right. At least in that way that I was here. And it's probably because I wasn't supposed to be here in that way anymore. And then a couple of months later, or actually probably 1 month later, I was like, all right, well, I spent the last year and a half, 2 years kind of getting my restaurant feet back. Like when we talk about restaurant legs and that energy, that means, going to sleep and going home around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, especially with us doing late night till 2 a.m. That might mean turning right back around and being here at 8 o'clock in the morning to open up for that all-you-can-eat Sunday brunch. It meant working those 12 to 14-hour days on your feet, as well as, doing the admin portion of it. And I had spent the last 2 years kind of reconditioning my body to that lifestyle, because when you sit, in the office from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, it takes a while for you to realize that now I'm out here when I want to kind of be hanging out with folks too, but now I'm actually working here on them Friday and Saturday nights, which is all right. But like I said, I was kind of pushed out of the organization, which is fine. But I made the decision that, well, since I've got this and I'm feeling the energy again, I want to go into ownership. So let me start looking, right? And I started looking, and I found a place that I loved equally in my neighborhood of Jamaica Plain. And it was a small bar, and it was just the perfect size. It was a good price. And the seller was really motivated to sell. And we had a deal on the table, and we were ready. Like, I was going to be in Jamaica Plain before I ended up here in the South End with my first location. But a month later, I ran into the owner here, who was currently the owner here at Daryl's. And I said to him, I was like, I want to buy a business, and I know he knew numbers very well, and he did this for 20 some odd years. So why would I not ask him, what the deal is? But this is another one of those things about, and since it's Testimony Tuesday, this is one of those things about, faith, as well as getting out of your own way. And like, sometimes the Lord just needs to tell you to get the heck out your own way, sit down and let me show you how some things move. Right. So for me, it was, I had a bit of resentment. Like I told you, I was no longer welcomed in the same space that I had loved and like poured my spirit and my energy into, you know what I mean, as an employee. And it took a lot of bravery, I think, for me to be able to talk to that same person and say, hey, you know, I actually need you to give me a little bit of advice on something. And from that conversation of me stop being so stubborn, which is something that me and my God are working on, right? So it's me not being so stubborn and me having that, you know, just a little bit of, I had to have some courage to have that conversation. And I needed that at that time. It turned into 24 hours later, an offer, a conversation that said, well, if you're serious about that dream and about really pursuing this life, let's talk about Daryl's being your number one in your first location. And not the deal that I had on the table. Let's talk about Daryl's being that first location for you. And we you'll continue to ask me some questions and we'll continue to have this conversation. But at the end of the day, for me, is one of the biggest lessons of like, get out your own way, stop being so stubborn and just say yes, right? Because the next thing for me was, all right, of course I want to do this. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that I had just poured myself into for the last 2 years. Of course, this is a no-brainer, but is this really for me? You know, I even struggled with that part. But go ahead, Jimmy.
No, so one, thank you for being so transparent. And then, you know, I enjoyed the first here in the Java Cafe. And so being transparent and sharing that for the first time, that this was part of your walk. And so a few things to extract from there. 24, so you got, in a sense, pushed out. And you were looking to go into another land, and then you got called back into the land in which you had planted seed already, well, and thought it wasn't good ground, and then had to come back and purchase the land. And 24 hours later, and so that obviously means that when we do this thing of Black mental wealth, and so I want to do a little bit about that with you as well, because we also have to take a perspective about planning, being Black folks, saving money and things like that. But maybe we can do that at another time, because this ain't good. I'm listening and I'm like, oh my God, why did it take so long? And this ain't going to be your last time here. And so that happened in what year? 2015?
2018 is when my conversation started happening about becoming the owner of Daryl's.
Okay. And then 24 hours later, the deal was presented. And then so what are some of the lessons? So let's name a couple of things. Get out of your own way. Don't be stubborn, and learn to say yes. Did I miss anything from we're having a little Sunday school lesson in Testimony Tuesday.
And that's it.
Listen. And so what are some of the other lessons? I talked a little bit. We do the segment now on Mondays called Black Mental Wealth. Nia, what type of mentality did it take? So you named a little bit that you felt some sort of way of going back to the place in which you planted seeds. What mentality, what was that process for you for having to go back? Because I think a lot of us have planted seeds in a lot of places, and when things, it turns to look like foul ground, we may not want to go back. And so what type of mentality did it take for you to, with all due respect, to suck it up and go back and get that advice and have that conversation?
It took me realizing, you know, unfortunately, it took me having to be a little selfish in that situation. And I look at it in a way of, you know, selfish can be taken as a negative connotation, or it can be empowering. And in that instance, to me, it was an empowering selfishness that said, well, you know, you've selflessly kind of given to a space. And I mean, the least you can do is get back one thing, right? Like, that's how I felt about it. In that way, it was just kind of like, well, I mean, the least you could do is tell me this.
At least.
Because I'm going to fight, and I'm going to, you know, do a whole lot with grit and grace and all that other things, right? Like, I'm going to get to what is, to me, what I always call my blessing, right? I'm always going to get there, but you know, sometimes you got to yield a bit and swallow your pride, and that is, you know, of the devil. I had to do that too.
Yes, ma'am. As a Black woman, let's just be 100. How many peers do you have here in the city of Boston, in the vein of owning 2 establishments, entertainment, hospitality establishments?
I would say that I have no peers. If you're talking about specifically entertainment and hospitality, like to be able to have 2 establishments under that umbrella. When we talk about what other peers, yes, I have a lot of great women in the space that share the space with me. We're in food and beverage. A lot of great women who can do that, but still, when I say a lot, that's just a few of us. That's a handful of us, you know.
How is it, Nia? Let's. How is it dealing with men in the space? Let's just. Is part of your testimony in the wonderful refinedness that we're all working through? How is it honestly dealing with men? We talk a lot about protecting Black women, and we know that capitalism is a white systemic space, but Black men tend to move differently. How has it been as a woman dealing with building
You
what you're building?
I, one, the food and beverage industry is inherently, and a lot of our industries are inherently sexist, right? And so you already walk into a space, and the expectation is when they see me and they come into any of the spaces that I have, they see me, they're like, oh man, she's a great hostess. Look at that wonderful server. Maybe she does whatever else, but never the owner, right? And that's always all right for me because I'm too cool. Like, I feel like I'm just too cool to really go ahead and battle with you. In the end, if I got to sign your check, you're gonna know what it is. And I always feel like there's so much more enjoyment in that. But that's just me, having a couple, some funny conversation about it. But to be honest, it's tough. It's tough because I have to exude 3 times the effort, you know what I mean? And 3 times the case. Like I have to make my case 3 times over to say that I'm qualified to be in this space, to make people believe that I can, one of the things was that I can't have a place that has late night, that it goes until 2 a.m. because I'm a woman. And what is a woman going to do after 2 a.m. when the people might be a little bit, rowdy, or the neighborhood might be undesirable? And I'm like, the same thing I would do at 2 p.m. You know what I mean? Practice all the same measures that would keep me safe, that would keep me grounded. And no, I feel like I'm protected and covered, right? So I think a lot of the things that when women are in this space as well, it always seems like maybe some of our ideals are too big, right? And then it's like, well, why is that too big? Like, why is it far-fetched to think that I can X, Y, and Z when if my male counterpart said half of what I said, it'd be like brilliant. And I think that often we really get challenged with how much we can do and how much we can bear. And even when I came back and said, I've been looking for a restaurant, it was said to me, well, I thought you was tired of this business and you couldn't take it. And I said, oh, no, I wasn't tired of this business per se. I was tired of the way you were handling business. And I knew that I wanted to be able to do something a little bit differently. So,
Nia, oh my God, so when you talk, we can go like 10 different ways. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. One is, let's just really name, and I'll say as a Black man, I want to apologize and say I'm sorry to you for any treatment that other Black men have done in the space where you have to work 3 times as hard. I also want to say, there's some brothers that look out for them a little bit, but they'll be glad to come and escort you home at 2 a.m. and make you, we know you covered, but sometimes that demonstration is here in the earthing realm. But anyway, you talked a little bit about being a Black woman and having big dreams. And so not to pull you too much into politics, but Boston is changing, and we have a millennial mayor who I sat 6 inches away from her, and we talked about late night. And so there's going to be an influence there. Just in a general sense, what is it for you as a Black woman? No, we did not have a Black woman to get to the final in mayor, but as a woman and a woman of color, how much has it meant to you to see this historic change in the city of Boston?
It's something that I never thought that I would see, truthfully.
Seriously?
I never thought that this was going to be my city per se. I went to school in Miami. I have a lot of friends who are from the southern area. And so, you've got your Georgias and places where this is not an anomaly, where Black people who have influence and who have wealth and who have properties, that's not an anomaly, right? In some of these areas where my friends are from. And so I just thought it was never going to be a reality because, at almost 40 years, it took this long to get here. And I had not seen anything that really changed in terms of true power at the top. So for me, like I said, I just didn't think that this was going to be reality. And so to be able to see it and to be able to hug, our Mayor Wu and to have some coffee with her and all of that just gives me so much joy. But I think it started before that. When I first met then counselor, but now Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, I was like, oh, this is helpful. This is like hopeful, right? And then when we started to see the city council change, and I'm like, this is still giving me some more empowerment. And I understood that from our predecessors and our elders. They let us know that political power is something that we also need as we're sitting here trying to figure out how we're going to attain wealth and growth in a sustainable society for our people. But I never found it as anything that was attainable to me. It always seemed like just a hair's throw away, just something I would not ever be able to affect change on. And this cycle has really allowed me to see that now they're really listening. Like there are people, like you said, our millennial mayor who really sat down. I sat down with her about 4 times in this cycle to have those conversations that were meaningful for Black women, that were meaningful for Black entrepreneurs, for meaningful for Black creatives. Like, I think that when I sat in those seats, I could come from a lot of different spaces. And then I see a lot of the policies and changes already enacted that give me joy, right? That give me excitement. So we're never going to be, like Atlanta, but I do appreciate the strides and steps that we are taking. Absolutely.
I just had to take a sip because, I've been spending a lot of time Atlanta, and it was so, one of the things that we're doing on Saturday, and it's shout out to Rachel, talking about can't wait until Saturday. One of the things, and Nia, I gotta in real time be honest. I had an idea of who you were, and it just is really, really amazing in real time to really get to know you in this manner and see your philosophy around a lot. It's definitely dope. This is one of the reasons why I was bugging you and I was adamant about having the Java Cafe at the Underground, because you're a Black-owned business. I've known you, for a long time. And so you talked a little bit about joy. We're getting close to wrap up. What is it that you do to keep your joy full? Thaddeus Miles curates this Black joy thing. What do you do, Nia, to keep your Black joy full?
I mean, it might sound crazy, but if you come visit me at Daryl's Thursday through Sunday, I promise you that's what gives me joy. So the curation of the entertainment that we do, the menu, the cocktails, like no one believes it. And I get a lot of joy and excitement from it when I let folks know, like, nah, if you like how clean my floors are, it's likely I clean that spot particularly just for you, right? It's one of those things where I say from the ground up, I put a hand on everything. And so literally what you're seeing that comes out of what comes out of Daryl's, what comes out of the Underground is constant, like ever churning love and joy, because I get to see reactions. I get to look at reviews that say, I just love my matcha latte. I don't care if that's it. That gave me joy, right? The people be able to say that. I mean, I looked at I looked on the internet real quick and I saw some photos from Celeste the Therapist's event that she held at the Underground.
Look, I did too. And I was like, so the idea was good. I was looking at it. I said, I'm going to steal a couple ideas for Saturday.
Those photos gave me joy. So, truthfully, and I have a friend in the industry, she equally is kind of like a workaholic in this space, but we do it because I couldn't imagine doing anything else at this point, right? If I can't create more venues for you and more happiness for people to experience in my spaces, and I wouldn't really know what to do. But before you cut me off, because I know you're about to.
No. Listen, I'm being courteous to you because I know you're busy. Tell your story, sis.
No. But my other thing that I really do for joy is I like to travel. So I try to I drop things and I pick up and I go and I experience the world, because I realize that we got one turn on this earth, right? And I'm trying to get all of it. So
listen, I'm not, necessarily rushing off for any other reason of being sensitive to your time, because there's such a wealth of information I think that we're taking away today from just, she started a business. There are skill sets. There are mentalities and philosophies that you are naming that can transcend beyond, what you're doing. And so I really, really appreciate that. And so tell us a little bit about the Underground, because we're coming there Saturday. Registration has started. I talked to Marcy yesterday. Thank you, because I texted you and I was like, yeah, wait. But no. Tell us about the Underground and how you went from Daryl's, the night spot, to the Underground Cafe.
The Underground is, again, a part of my testimony, truthfully. I learned from one restaurateur that if you want to have multiple units, that you need to think about that from the first unit, right? So that means in 2018, when I was opening Daryl's on September 7th, on September 8th, I was thinking about, all right, what's that next unit going to look like, right? And
It's
what
my
can
birthday, so look at Jesus. That's my birthday. Go ahead.
with a blessing, right? So I say, what am I going to do? And I had saw our space down the street a year later after buying Daryl's, and I saw it was vacant, and it was at Northeastern, near Northeastern's campus. And I said, "Geesh, that would be amazing!" Like, because of I'm on the business side of it, the foot traffic, the built-in audience, the proximity to the university, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But on the other side of it, knowing what I did here, my first big hiccup was, well, how do I do what I do at Daryl's down here? And I said, I can't. I would have to literally change the entire concept. And to be honest, I didn't, other than working at Starbucks, I was like, I don't, I had never thought of a daytime concept. Like I do night very well, right? That's what I felt. And I thought that maybe that was my box. I have reached out to the realtor, and then I just felt like, maybe that this wasn't for me. Like I thought it was going to be way out of my reach. I had learned a bit about, tenant improvement credits and other things that you can negotiate when you're trying to get a lease. And it didn't seem like this was going to be one of those friendly kind of exchanges. And so I actually just kind of walked away from the inquiry of that. And 8 months later, I got a phone call. And 8 months later, my phone call was, hey, we got this space we want to talk to you about. Well, where's this space? It's down the street on Columbus Ave in the Lightview building. You ain't talking about the space I've been eyeballing every time I drive to work, because I've been looking at that space, salivating, saying, dang, you know what? I was looking at the space waiting for Tate and, Panera or whoever else to move in. And I was like, that really kind of, I think it kind of, whatever. But I just was like, I don't think that was my space. And I got that phone call that essentially said, nah, this is your space. And we're going to work with you to develop this space. And I thought they wanted me to just do a pop-up concept at first. And in fact, that's what they wanted me to do. They wanted me to do some like cook food down the street and then bring it down the street like a catering setup. And I was like, okay, but that's just not what restaurants do. That's not what people who are restaurateurs, we don't do that. So you can't really give me half the dream, you know what I mean? When I'm really ready to go 100%. And so from that conversation and my pitches, I had to do the work. I had to do some pitches. I had to, show the numbers. I had to make it seem like it could be something viable. And the underground to me is the birth of, again, people on the same path or people, heading towards the same destination whose paths eventually meet. And sometimes those meetings are clandestine, and sometimes those meetings are orchestrated, and sometimes it's a bit of all of those things, right? And in this instance, it was all of those things. I was able to meet with the original realtor who initially showed me the space, so I turned myself down. It was that lack of confidence again that said, this isn't for me, okay? And then the Lord said, I feel it wasn't for you then, but it's definitely for you right now. Right. And so it wasn't for me then, because guess what? I was looking at the space in February, went on a flight, got back, and they shut down the country. Right. That's what happened. The pandemic hit. And then when they reopened the country, like in October or November, that's when I got the call that said, hey, this is for you. And now's the time. And that's how I feel about it. And so they gave me and invested in me and took my previous works and said, let's do this and let's do it 100%. And we're going to have more undergrounds. Don't worry about that. We're going to have undergrounds everywhere.
Can you please put one up here in the area of Norfolk Street? Like Nia, I remember one day, and as wonderful as Nia is, Nia really knows how to get you together real well. She's had to a couple of times. But I put up a post a few months ago, and going to Atlanta and Miami, like brunch is huge for me. And like, we don't have, a space that I can just walk right down the street on Norfolk and Mattapan and Carbon Square. So please look up that area. And then also residents, we need to support it and then take care of it as well. And so Nia, how much time, what's your end time? How long did you block out?
I gave you an hour. I thought we was at an hour.
Good. We're going to use the whole hour. So a couple of things there. I just have to, the old preacher in me has to I love biblical numerology. February is the number of 2, the number of agreement. 8 months later, you got the phone call. 8 is the number of new beginning. 10 is the number of restart. And so you at the underground is definitely, some destiny. And so what type of feel is at the underground? Because I tell you, when I went there a couple of weeks ago, if I didn't look at Northeastern, I was like, oh, this reminds me of Atlanta and Miami. Like it has. Well, you tell me of what the concept is. And if it has changed a little bit, what has it evolved into?
to me, I wanted it to be that experience. I went to a predominantly white institution as well, right? And so for college, and but I also grew up watching a different world, and I never found my spot. Like, our people like on the campus, never found that, right? And so when I thought about the underground, and I understood, I'm in a sorority, and I have sorors who attended Northeastern University, and
what sorority? You can shout them out. Which one?
My soror is a Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. It's Rovember, if you didn't know. So, so, I understood that when they were on campus, they had very limited space that they can go to. And when I say limited, they had zero spaces that they could identify with, right? Except for the African American Institute. And the African American Institute is one that's obviously very key, but that's what they only had on campus, right? And we're stewards of that space. And I felt that this was an opportunity for them to walk back to their dorms, or to walk back, to their apartment off campus, and see something that looked familiar to them. And I wanted to do it in a way that showcased our excellence and our brilliance, and to me, our like wherewithal. And so people talk about what's the name, the underground, and where I sit, my business can literally just look over a bit and see or used to be able to see the Harriet Tubman House, right? And so while we are coming up with what we're going to do down the street at the Lightview, and I'm watching the tear down of our legacy, I'm like, geez, And then I started to think a little bit more, and literally the name is derived out of our presence here in the city of Boston, right? It's literally derived out of the trek that we took from the South, that we made it up here and we made our home. And to me, it really continues to focus on the intersections, right? So here we are at a campus that a lot of people assume that, whatever people think about Northeastern, like I can get into politics, and I can talk about that part too, right? And I know that that's your hit. So for me, I understand that the community felt a way about Northeastern and all the things that they kind of did around their neighborhood, right, without really involving the community. And to me, it's one of those things where, all right, I get that side of it. And me as that person, I'm like, well, I'm going to try to bring us back together. I'm going to try to get us back on the same path. Because at the end of the day, I realized that even in my collegiate experience, I met so many people along a path that I needed and that I know still, right, that helped me to be the person that I am today, right, and helped me to grow into this space. And so I look at the underground as an opportunity for our paths to intersect in a space that is safe, in a space that promotes our culture, and like I said, our excellence overall. And so I'm just super happy about it. And I love all the faces that show up, all the faces, all the shades, everybody, all the ages. That's what it's supposed to be. That's what our city is supposed to be. So to me, the underground is reflective of what our city should be.
Nia knows me, and she knows when I'm taking these pauses and whatnot that I'm trying to get myself together. I just there's so much, and so I think it's important for folks that are coming on Saturday to really understand why I was very intentional about wanting to be there and not knowing those details. So shout out to the nod to Harriet Tubman, despite what's going on, and as you mentioned, and we can talk political a little bit about gentrification and what's going on in our city, and needing spaces for Black and brown people to artists. You mentioned the word creatives. You mentioned the word entrepreneurs and whatnot. And so let's go there a little bit. What grade would you give the city of Boston when it comes to how it propagates the environment for Black and brown creatives and artists? And this is in general. This isn't to no administration or anything like that. Just the environment here. Is it conducive for Black and brown artists to thrive?
I would say that we probably are doing a strong C, maybe D plus, right? Okay. And I mean that only because of how long it's taken us to get here. And so, I was in corporate before, and in my corporate role, I sat on the board of the Boston Cultural Council. Have you heard of the Boston Cultural Council, right? So at that point in time, I sat on that board. I was much younger, and I was the only face that looked like me. And, I sat in a very beautiful venue that I could never rent out, or none of us could ever rent out or even be seen on their stage. But we were there, and we were listening to what was going on culturally in the city of Boston. And every single proposal and the things, it's a process, right? So I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Mass Cultural Council or the Boston Cultural Council. It's a place that is supposed to, in fact, help foster some of that cultural in different areas, right? And it's also a funding source. And so, as I'm looking through applications and I see application after application, and none of them are sponsored by, an African American community, and sometimes even our Hispanic communities or Latino communities, it was like, okay, we don't know about this. It was something else that we didn't know about. And we were sitting here wondering why, no offense, but the Wake Up the Earth Festival was happening over here. And we were wondering why this was going on down here. And we could see parades, but we couldn't really get anything past the 3 that we already knew about, right? Like that's all we could get access to. So that was 10 years ago. So just in the last, 3 to 4 years, has the city really been a little bit more amenable to funding and sponsoring and supporting some of our initiatives. But we still don't have a big concert in the middle of City Hall, I believe. That's like, what's the name of that concert, right? You're going to sip some water.
Boston,
there you go. We still ain't got that. You know what I mean? Like, it's still a to-do when I'm just trying to go ahead and trek up the Ave just to get up to Franklin Park during the summer. I'll do that once a year, and I can't do that right. So to me, we are just kind of getting around to it, but Boston has been so Black and so full of color and so full of culture for so many years. I'm almost 40 years old. So for the fact that it happened in the last...
Wait, stop. You said you're almost 40?
Yeah.
So hold on. We got to park right there because 40 is the number of change. And so usually somewhere around 38 and a half, 39, depending on your maturity level, Nia, something shifts at 40. So if Jesus Lord. So I can't wait to see you after 40. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Because there's so much you achieved in your 30s. You and Michelle are close to age. What you talked about, I've heard some people say that Boston is getting ready to hit upon a renaissance. And so the creatives and the entrepreneur and the hospitality space definitely has to be a part of that. I wanted to go. So you started the Boston Hospitality Code, what is it called?
The Boston Black Hospitality Coalition. Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So the Boston Black Hospitality Coalition was co-founded by 5 founders and entrepreneurs of the 8 full liquor licenses that we have here in the city of Boston. That is less than 1% of all licenses that have been issued in the city of Boston. And what that really means is, right, we've got plenty of restaurants. It's not a problem. And plenty could be relative depending on who you're talking to. But we have a good amount of restaurants. We have very few restaurants that are fully licensed to serve alcohol. And what that means is that we kind of lose on our options for those third spaces or those celebratory locations and et cetera, right? All the other venues in the city of Boston get to enjoy and all those different choices. We formed out of the pure necessity and maybe the foresight that maybe some of our businesses would be left out of the solutions that were being presented for recovery. And we didn't want to have to kind of be boxed out on that way. Nor did we want this situation to come again, right? We understand that things will come around again. And so if there was ever a situation that we were going to kind of move and motivate or mobilize ourselves, last year was the year. But we set so with the immediate foundation that we always wanted to be a resource for our businesses. So whether it is professionally or licensing questions or financing without any because we know best, what we have to do, right?
You're in it. Yep.
That we're in it, right? And so we know best. And we just wanted to be that resource. And so since then, between the phone calls, between the meetings that we take up on behalf of all of us, like we sit and speak as a voice for all, and we welcome all input and contribution and requests, etc. But we're here as a resource and here as a gathering tool to unify our industry.
Yeah, I'm one thing, and you understand the term virtue. One way that I can always tell when I've had a good interview is when I am ready to pass out after, because it's just there's so much that we've been able to listen and learn. And I'm telling you all, you're not just Black young women, but get some Black young people and make them sit down and watch this, because there are nuggets that they'll walk away from that are life lessons. Nia, you really put out a lot of nuggets around life lessons, philosophy, ideology around approaches. You were very real about the time. And I am too sometimes that, it's easy for me to be like, you know what, one little thing and I'm walking away. And then God be like, aha, you want to make plans. I got plans for you. And so it would just be, I got to do a shameless plug, but not a shameless plug, and just say, this is where we're going to be on Saturday. Our host is going to be there. Our host is going to be the Underground Cafe. I'm not exactly sure if she'll be able to physically be there, but we want to support this Black-owned business even more so after hearing her testimony today. And along with brunch items from the Underground Cafe and Lounge, we're going to have spiked coffee drinks, non-spiked coffee drinks, mimosas, and non-alcoholic drinks such as teas, bottled water will be available for purchase. So you all are coming for free, but bring your wallet so you can buy your pastries. I don't know if this menu, I'm actually on my way to the Underground at about 12:15 today to do a walkthrough. And so I'm going to meet with the manager there. But we have an excellent lineup planned for you. Nia, we're going to do a panel called Green Space. Green Space. And so we have Low Key Cannabis. Jeff from Low Key is coming. I'm chatting with Tito. Hopefully we can get him to come. And so we're going to talk about Black equity in the cannabis industry. And then we're going to talk about spaces like you're doing. You know, Thaddeus Miles did the Black Joy Project. Boston Wild Black did the Lawn on the D event. Makiba McCreary was opening up the MFA. And so we're talking green space on Saturday. And so there will be vendors there, you guys. But most importantly, Nia, if you're able to be there, you all need to come and just meet this young woman. And really, we need to make sure they run out of everything. Coffee, food. We need to be a fire hazard, and not so much for Java with Jimmy, but the goal, when I realized it was Small Business Saturday, even before that, I knew what we could bring to the business, and then it's Small Business Saturday. So let's really plan to pack that place out. Don't forget to register so we know you're coming. So, because there's something still going on called COVID. And so we have an 84-person capacity. Registration is going to cap out a little bit below that, you know, because some people will just show up. But Nia, I really appreciate you so much for taking the time today. This is not the first time. Saturday will not be the last time we'll be at the Underground. I guess I'll end with asking you, I mean, there's so much, but outside of what you're doing, what in the spirit of Thanksgiving, and let me just check the comments because folks are really loving you in here. Beautiful. They said you better cheat. Yes, Nia.
My sister's
Charmaine?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. She what you call it?
And America, you already know. I'm my singing sisters too.
Listen, Charmaine may not come or Naraki because, you know, we're going to have the spiked drinks. We have a communion on Saturday, y'all. I'm going to leave that right there. And Newt Johnson, who you know, the menu at the Underground is dope. I'm there all the time. Smoothies are bomb. I was there a couple of weeks ago with my friend China. And so we'll be back there this Saturday. So Nia, what away from everything that God has blessed you with, all the lessons learned, why or for what, or can you tell us something for which you were thankful in this spirit of Thanksgiving?
I am, you know, it's so simple, right, to say that you're thankful for family, right? But I am thankful for the health of my family. I've had some struggles for them for the last couple of years. And so I'm also thankful for having space, right? And people don't understand what that, you know, we understand what we mean in those different spaces we're talking about. Where do Black people go? And we need space, right? But also having that space. My partner, my family, my in-laws, we were able to gather here at the restaurant a couple of years ago and bring 70 family members of all different families into this space, right? That gives me, again, more joy in being able to bring my families together. I'm super thankful this year. I have community partners who are in fact customers who we're going to be hosting families from the Epiphany School from Dorchester.
What Michelle
here, huh? Yes.
What Michelle said, that's my homegirl. You heard Lino? Listen.
We are super excited. We've got 50 youth and their families that'll be here tomorrow having a pre-Thanksgiving dinner formal here at Daryl's. And it's something in my self and a friend of mine we are sponsoring, and my staff is going to be here, and we're going to be at service and give, you know, these families, to me, what we think is going to be super special of a semi-formal event right before the holidays. And so it's ability to do things like that. And then the next day on Thanksgiving, I'll open up these doors again to host my blended families. And I love to cook. And so the ability for me on the holidays to actually get in the kitchen and like put my apron on and like do what I do, that gives me so much joy. And I'm very grateful for that.
I appreciate you. One challenge I will let you go away with is every time I asked about self-care and joy, you tied in work. And I know for folks like us, Governor Patrick said to me one day, "What do you do for joy?" I was like, "Oh, I organize and help people." He said, "James, that's work." And so I'm going to challenge you to, and I know you have other ways that you practice Black joy, but every time I asked about joy or self-care, you went right back to being in the place and whatnot. And so move beyond that. And I know it brings you joy, and I know you do other things, but I would be a older. Oh God, I'm an older brother. Nia, oh God, I can't wait to see you. So a couple of things. Just plan to come Saturday, guys. Go and register. You can meet myself, Nia as well. And we will be there Saturday at 11 a.m. And we are just going to support this Black-owned business. We're going to get to taste the wonderful food. Naraki said, "I'm coming for the drinks." So we're going to have some communion on Saturday, guys. But Nia, I really appreciate you. And I'm getting ready to go meet with your manager, Marcy, down at shout out to Marcy, because I texted and called her. She's very nice and whatnot, but she sets order and protocol.
Absolutely.
And so I love it. And so Nia, thank you so much for being in the Java Cafe today. And I'm on my way down to the underground, and hopefully you get to stop in sometime on Saturday. And I look forward with you as this partnership develops, because I cook too. And I got a drink called the Sunshine Jimmy.
Okay, now what's in that? You got to tell me.
Okay, so the Sunshine Jimmy has tequila, pineapple and or mango vodka. What do you call it? The orange thing. Grand Marnier, a little bit of lime juice, and mixed with either mango, pineapple. It's like a fruity drink, and it's called a Sunshine Jimmy. So I'll be glad one day to bring the outside products down there and make one for you and see if
okay.
I see your brain looking to try to get the taste together.
No, let me tell you what, we're gonna have the Sunshine Jimmy, and I'm gonna have that pair off against our Firestorm. But whenever you're ready, come on down. I'll make it for you special. You let me know.
We're going to get ready to go, guys, and yeah. Nia, I appreciate you for the years of friendship and looking more to learn from you, and then also support the business. And there's a Java After Dark component that we talked about at Daryl's that is kind of a different topics and more to come on that, you guys. Thank you all for tuning in today, and we will see you on Saturday at 11 a.m. Nia, thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah.